Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Kyle Roerink joins us. He's the Executive Director of the Great Basin Water Network, here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
A power line is more than a power line. It's maintaining the bottom line for small businesses. It's keeping the assembly line moving for our workforce. For our brightest minds, it's meeting a deadline. It's on the front line with our heroes. And on the sidelines of the biggest games. It's a direct line to our loved ones. And it's a lifeline for the most vulnerable. There's a lot on the line.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org.
It's a good time to eat. It's a good time to play.
It's a good time to win.
Ooh, you good times to tame a wreck.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we're always pleased to welcome back to the program Kyle Roerink. He is the Executive Director of the Great Basin Water Network. Pleasure to have you back on the program.
Glad to be back.
Thank you. So let's start out with a kerfuffle that Congressman Mark Amodei had by daring to include Southern Nevada in his lands bill, a portion going into the reconciliation bill, because it included not only Northern Nevada, but Southern Nevada as well. First of all, were you surprised at the response from both our two senators and the Congress folk from down south? And I always thought, and maybe I'm crazy, that once you were elected, you represented all the people, not just your constituency. If it's Nevada, it's all of Nevada.
Was I surprised at the reaction? No, because the turning on and off the outrage machine these days is easy to do. Now, I think for each of those members representing Southern Nevada, whether it be on the Senate side or on the House side, there are different shades there because of current positions that they are taking on current pieces of legislation. And so some of it seemed more justified to me as opposed to others, because some of those lawmakers are also supporting public land sales in their own ways and in somewhat different avenues, but the concepts are very much the same. And I think what really made the outrage a chorus was due to the fact that money would no longer go to the coffers for the Southern Nevada Public Lands Management Act, and it would go straight to the Treasury. So I think the money is where the outrage really came from, and it posed the question of, well, Mr. Amodei, why would we do this? Why would we want to take money away that we know can go to Nevada and put it in the Treasury? And I think there is some decorum. Having worked on Capitol Hill and in legislative arenas for many years, lawmakers get territorial about, hey, if you're doing something that's going to impact my district, you better let me know. And so I think that is where some of it can be very justifiable, but there's a lot of different shades in all of this.
Well put, sir. Well put. It wasn't that long ago that Clark County was going to get 1,000 acres. And let's put it on the table that there are so many places in Nevada that need a lands bill because the growth is already there and they need to accommodate it in one way or the other. And the price of housing has just gone through the roof, as everybody knows. But not too long ago, Clark County was offered 1,000 acres and turned it down, said it wasn't enough. In the meantime, nobody else has gotten anything accomplished over the finish line, or even close to it, it appears. Congressman Amadei was getting something done. And after the fact, after the uproar, he said that he would go back, or would have gone back, and worked out a way to get that money back into Nevada by negotiating with the agencies that, yes, it goes into the Treasury, but if that money is going to be spent, it could be spent potentially in Nevada. But his other point that I thought was really well made was Senator Reid is gone. And he's bemoaned that fact 3 times as a Republican bemoaning the Democratic majority leader. And the Southern Nevada Public Lands Act is 30 years old. And it's the only one out of 50 states that exists. And the thought that it's going to continue like that forever, maybe not.
Well, and that's always been on the table, or it becomes a model elsewhere. We know that Utah has looked for its own version of a SNPLMA, to use that acronym,
Right.
over the years. Now, do I think if I were Mark Amadei and I had the relationships that he does, and he makes a few calls and says, hey, we can get a lands bill done, and calls Marilyn Kirkpatrick or some other folks down in Clark County, and gets a green light, which I absolutely believe that he did talk to people
Well,
down
he said
there.
he said
And
Jim Gibson, Marilyn Kirkpatrick. He talked to planners in Clark County. He said he wasn't doing it in a vacuum.
I absolutely believe that he did that, and you try and ram and jam it through, and you see what happens for folks who are of that disposition. It's not shocking at all to me. And again, it comes down to, I think, the central question of, are there people out there who support the land sales or not? And how bad do you want it for the people who are asking you to do it for them? Now, I think the real question right now is, you can look at the headlines of the Review Journal for the past month or so, and there's a lot of housing availability right now. There's a lot of vacancies available. The market is cold. So are we dealing with an actual crisis, or are we dealing with a manufactured crisis? I think that's the real question. What is the need actually for? And how are we defining affordability when we are talking somewhat like in a situation like this? What does affordability actually mean? Who are we putting in housing?
All right, so this is great because you're asking me a whole bunch of questions. And of course, as you know on this program, I don't have any answers. That's why I have people like you come on. So explain the other side of that. You've posed the questions. What in your mind are the answers?
I think does affordability. I think affordability, especially on the left as opposed to the right, affordability is used as this hook to say, look how magnanimous we are. We are doing this to get people in affordable housing, but really, I think there's a fine line between, are we actually taking care of the people who need to be taken care of the most, or are we placating certain business interests and we're sugarcoating it with magnanimous language and benevolent language? And I think that's where there's a lot of umbrage, especially in the NGO community and the progressive community, about, well, this actually isn't for the types of affordable housing units that come to mind whenever we talk about affordable housing. Because I think if you go down to Vegas right now and you look into that $300,000, $400,000 price range, that kind of classic price point right now in these markets, you're going to find a lot of it. Or But then there's a question of, well, what about folks like BlackRock buying up all these properties, where Ira Hansen in the legislative session was pushing really, really hard. It was a Republican pushing really hard to say, one of the reasons why we're seeing the price points, we're not getting that 200,000, 150,000 type of price point, is because we have hedge funds coming in and buying all this stuff up. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done before we say, the way to solve this crisis is we sell off public lands and we build where there isn't infrastructure, where there aren't roads, where there aren't schools, where there aren't emergency services. And I think if Nevada has shown anything in recent years, it's that the types of growth that we get leads to more regressive sales taxes. I think that's what we can guarantee if we keep doing it.
Boy, that's quite a long journey you just took.
I know.
All right, so let's try to dabble in some of these. Okay, I think that one of the things that occurs with growth is that growth cannot be accommodated before it occurs. So even though, for example, the RJ just yesterday had a story on, I think it was 2045, between 2040 and 2045, they're going to hit the 3 million person market. So we know that number of people is going to be coming to Southern Nevada, to the Las Vegas area. And it makes sense with Ivanpah and all the rest, the growth is going to come, and over that period of time. But you can't build the roads, you can't supply the water and the electricity in advance, because the current ratepayers would be paying that, and everybody would be out of office if you tried to do that. So you end up in the situation, which we always end up with, which is traffic jams, the need for new water projects, new power projects, but they come after the growth is already done. So, one way or the other, you're going to have to accommodate the realities. And, the good news for me is, and I love these folks, RTCs, airports, state demographers, they all can tell you roughly what's going to happen for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So, we ignore that at our peril.
We do. I think what also happens is, and I think you can ask Southern Nevada ratepayers whose electric bills have skyrocketed in recent years, their water bills have skyrocketed, and that's going to continue. And we've seen the behavior of NV Energy really come to light recently, and we know what they're doing in the PUC right now, asking for more hikes. And so the question ultimately becomes, what is the cost to existing residents? And that's what never gets penciled out. And I think if existing residents, the people who vote all these people into office, had a clearer understanding of who's ultimately going to pay for this in the long run, I think there would be a different attitude collectively throughout the body politique, if you will, about these types of policies that are touted as good for everybody. I don't think they're good for everybody. I think they're good for a somewhat select group of people over the long term. Because who's going to be moving into these houses? Are we inviting? Are we putting a doormat out front that says, welcome Southern Californians? And then do we get into the same type of crisis where they come with cash and jack up the price of the homes to begin with?
An interesting scenario. You also have the philosophy that if you're not growing, you're dying. You can't stay where you are. And we have to deal with the reality that California, regulatory-wise, is such a disaster that people are coming here. I mean, I was just talking to somebody the other day who is a businessman from Southern California, and he's purchasing a property in Henderson. He said, even with the ability to write off state taxes, it still doesn't amount to a savings when he could move to Las Vegas and benefit more from that. So, I mean, you have that already happening. And I don't see how we're going to get, over the next decade or more, slow growth in Nevada. I just don't see it. If you're going to build on 5,500 to 6,000 acres for a new airport. And you're going to have 17,000 acres adjacent to it that is for all the services that go along with it. And I try to tell people it's like if you go to Denver and you see their relatively new airport versus the old downtown airport, all that growth that's around that airport, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And they're going to Vegasify it. I mean,
Yeah.
in talking to people privately, I mean, the architects are very excited about building something that's better than Changi in Singapore. So you're talking $20 billion of investment just in the airport and adjacencies, let alone the town that's going to grow up around it, because it is going to be a town.
Well, here's what I would like to see before any of that happens. I would like to take all these folks out to Lake Mead for a tour. And I'll say, Lake, it's 30% full today. The Bureau of Reclamation is predicting that that Lake Mead is going to hit some of its lowest levels ever. What are we going to do? And I'll put it under the guise of, you can't go to rural Nevada and steal water. How do we solve your issues here?
And I guess if I were John Ensminger, the first thing I would say is that every drop of water that comes out of Lake Mead comes back into Lake Mead, that they have done such an incredible job with water reclamation. That, and I can't quote you the numbers, you can quote me the numbers, but how much less water that we're using in Clark County than we were 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So there's another side of that. But you're not, you can't put up a gate and say you can't come. I mean, and you're right. I mean, it falls on the electeds, but it also falls on what the heck happened to the media, and how do you fix that situation so people get information that's real, and so they understand, and then you can bring in inflation and talk about that as well. Maybe we'll get to that in our next segment. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Welcome to Story County, where history meets innovation and a pioneering spirit continues to shape our future. At the heart of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, we power the future with global leaders in technology and manufacturing, driving progress that reaches far beyond our county lines. From advanced manufacturing to tech innovation, our industries are creating thousands of quality careers, fueling a vibrant economy that benefits every Nevadan. Our community is our foundation. Be part of a legacy built on bold ideas and boundless possibilities. Story County, helping build Nevada's future.
All hail the $200,000 Cash is King giveaways at Carson Valley Inn. Weekly prize drawings including thousands in cash and free play. And 2 big grand prize giveaway events, each with a $15,000 cash winner guaranteed. Only at the Carson Valley Inn.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Carl Roerink. He's the executive director of the Great Basin Water Network. In the whole Congressman Amodei kerfuffle, Congresswoman Lee testified before the Rules Committee in support of her amendment to stop Amodei's Utah land grab that jeopardizes Nevada's water security, according to her press release. Please explain what that was, because when I talked to Congressman Amodei, he was like, what?
And of course I watched that episode of the program.
I'm sure you did.
And so I think some of the congressman's responses was a little bit off. Really what Representative Lee was concerned about was basically a right-of-way corridor being carved out for the Lake Powell pipeline, which is something when you talk to folks who are tapped into the Colorado River community, tapped into Congress, Representative Lee's concerns were not mere hyperbole. This was a designed effort by folks in Utah to ram and jam a right-of-way for the Lake Powell pipeline. And why is that bad for us in Nevada? What that means is Utah taking an additional 86,000 acre-feet out of the Colorado River system every year. We're talking billions and billions of gallons.
Okay, are they entitled to that under the current rules?
Entitlement, having water on paper doesn't necessarily entitle you to water because the water has to be available. Now, I get into it with Utah regulators. I go to water rights hearings and file protests over in Utah, and I ask them, I look them in the eye, and I say, tell me how you actually think water is available on the Colorado River system right now for appropriation.
And isn't that Amadee's point? That you would have to go through the Colorado Commission and all the rest?
Well, I think getting a right-of-way carved out would limit Nevada's ability to be able to push back. And that's what makes it scary. When you carve out big pathways for infrastructure like that, you're taking away your own people's ability to have a fair and meaningful say.
Right, but they're not. But they're not actually. So, because I really didn't understand that, and that's why I wanted you to come on and talk about this. So, them having a pathway doesn't mean they're getting the water, and.
Well, the state of Utah absolutely thinks that it does have the water, and I think if you get the federal stuff out of the way, it makes it very easy for Utah to pump that water out of Lake Powell, and that's the really scary part about it, is that there are fewer obstacles at the state level at this point for reasons I won't get into than at the federal level. And Utah tried this at the federal level in 2020, and ultimately it had to go on pause because there was so much outrage from Nevada and California and Arizona, and the comments that the Southern Nevada Water Authority put forward in that process were really not just they were respectful, but they were edifying as it relates to what happens when water levels get really low, just for things like water quality. And they didn't even get into the quantity stuff as much, but when you are lacking quantity at Meade, you begin to get quality issues as well. And so it was quite a kerfuffle, and there's a reason why that process stopped. And there's a reason why there was an effort in this bill, and it very well may come back, because now, it's not Amadee and Malloy, it's Mike Lee now.
All right, let's take another break. We'll be right back.
Meet Nevada Health Link, Nevada's official health insurance marketplace. Your link to savings, selection, free assistance, and name brand health insurance, where 90% of enrollees lower the cost of their monthly premium. Everyone deserves access to quality health coverage, no matter your income or family size. Visit NevadaHealthLink.com. A few minutes could save you hundreds of dollars per month.
Nevada Health Link. Our plans are made for your plans.
The trucking industry is the most resilient link in the supply chain. And for over 90 years, the Nevada Trucking Association has been the voice for the men and women in the trucking industry. From Carson City to Washington, D.C., we advocate for policies to protect our trucking companies and keep commerce flowing. Because Nevada's and America's prosperity is tied to trucks. There's nothing without trucking.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
For 50 years, Nevada Heating has been keeping people comfortable in their homes. At Nevada Heating, call the Do It Right guys and get the air conditioning back on today. That's the Nevada Heating way. Why sweat for days on end when Nevada Heating can get your air conditioning fixed today? Call us today and we'll fix it today at 323-5585 or schedule us on our website at nevadaheating.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers with Kyle Roerink, Pat Mulroy, the former head of the Southern Nevada Water Authority, was talking about how much it cost her after she got all her landscaping pulled out and got the money from the Southern Nevada Water Authority. She said that the increased bills were just stunning. In her view, the Water Authority should not be looking in people's backyards for water savings. She insists that the fundamental challenges of the Colorado River won't be solved without finding more water to add to the dwindling system. And that came from the Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Yeah.
Quick thought.
Well, my crocodile tears and little violins for Pat Mulroy having to, pay more for her water bill to have landscaping, and I'm sure a very, very nice property and home is.
But that wasn't her point.
But yeah, the point being is, Las Vegas is going to have to do the hard work, and that's why John's leadership is so important right now. And when you look at the water planning, when you look at their planning, every drop, those drops from Pat Mulroy's backyard, they count for the future. So you want that growth in Ivanpah, Pat's going to have to pull out her plants.
All right. Well, apparently has already done it. Kyle Roerink, always a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
We appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
Welcome to the Ahern Boutique Hotel, where luxury and warmth come together in the heart of Las Vegas.
We take pride in offering a one-of-a-kind experience for both locals and tourists.
Join us for handcrafted cocktails and an unforgettable experience.
Joel's Chop House, the perfect place to savor views of the Las Vegas Strip.
Satisfy your cravings at the Ahern Chocolate Shop.
No smoking, no resort fees, and the parking is always free. The Ahern Luxury Boutique Hotel is your home away from home.
You can always watch Nevada Newsmakers 24 hours a day at NevadaNewsmakers.com. Thanks for watching and listening.